In today's episode, Eric dives into the world of personal injury law and exploring how artificial intelligence, AI, is making a significant impact on this field. From streamlining case management to aiding in legal research and decision making, AI is reshaping the way lawyers approach personal injury claims. Let's take a closer look at this innovative intersection.
Well, that was a first. An AI generated person introducing me to the Law Pod and to today's episode. But this is the world we're in. And if you're not familiar with artificial intelligence and what's going on in the world as it relates to that, well, you will be soon enough. AI is everywhere and it is being used in, I think, at this point, all aspects of our lives. And it's pretty amazing. I am, I'm, I'm pretty sold on it. In January, I attended a lawyer conference where the focus was on artificial intelligence and automation and how we as lawyers can utilize those products, if we want to call them that, in our law firms to increase efficiency, uh, reduce error, and just generally uh, have a competitive edge, if you will. Um, and really, my competition is insurance companies. And that's what I'm always looking to keep up with and or outcompete with. And, as I've said many times before, these insurance companies are, you know, billion-dollar industries and they have tons of resources. And if you don't think that they're utilizing artificial intelligence in their operations, then you're wrong. And so it's a race to get AI implemented and, you know, have some dramatic effects on what we're doing here. And I have declared 2025 the year of artificial intelligence and automation in our law firm. And so artificial intelligence is going to either be a tremendous achievement and help to us as humans, or it's going to kill us. And I'm hoping for the first option. So, but there's a lot to be seen in the future, and I just don't know. But right now, I'm pretty taken and pretty amazed by what is capable with AI. So, right now, probably as it is in most industries, there are floods or a flood of information products that are geared towards lawyers, AI based to help us in all aspects of our operation. And today I'm going to just kind of go through what I'm seeing, what we're using, and, give my thoughts on where the future's headed. So, right now, again, if for some reason you've been living out in the woods and don't really know about artificial intelligence, it's this basically computers training on the input, the data that they're getting, and they're coming to the ability to reason on their own and analyze and sort and do all the things humans do, but on a much quicker basis and on a much less error prone basis. Now, right now, I'll tell you, you have to take AI with a grain of salt because I've been telling everybody around here, trust but verify. And so when we're using AI in our law firm, we're doing it with the idea that we get a result, but then we definitely have to have human eyes and human brain on the result to make sure it matches up with reality. And so that's really important. But artificial intelligence is there to, and again, it's only going to get better. It's dramatic how quickly it has gone from essentially an elementary school level to, I think it's up to a high schooler slash college student level now, just within a few years. And the prediction is, I mean, it will be into like the engineering level very soon. And again, if you've played around with AI, you're going to know that it's pretty unbelievable. And I mean, I've been using Chat GPT in my personal life. I'm starting to use it more than Google when I'm searching for solutions, how to do things, whatever it is. And it's pretty amazing as to what it can accomplish. And so, again, right now in the legal world, there's tons of companies, whether it's in the legal research part of it, whether it's in, again, for personal injury, there's companies out there that are offering like a full suite of, you can have your client's medical records evaluated, summarized, put into chronological order. It can give you patterns. It can flag potential problems in a client's medical history. It can do all that kind of stuff. It can take a police report. It can give you insights. It can point out things that, again, we could potentially miss. And it can even go so far as if you're in a lawsuit and you're having depositions, and you've got those deposition transcripts, you can, feed those in there. It'll analyze them, give you thoughts, give you summaries, things to look for, things to follow up on. Again, it's across the board. Legal research wise, again, there is there are services that you can utilize based on, what jurisdiction you're wanting to know about. So for example, Missouri, if I've got a question about Missouri, I can ask the question. It'll produce an AI generated response based on statutes, case law, all those things. And again, here's what I've found is you don't want to use free stuff, because there's plenty of free options, but we are choosing to pay for any type of AI services that we're using. And there's a couple things to that. And essentially what happens is all these companies, they use some basic platform. I mean, there's only so many AI platforms out there, like Chat GPT, I think it's Claudia. Um, of course, DeepSeek is a new one, but they take one of those platforms and then they customize it to the specific uh, industry that is being targeted. And so again, these companies come out and they say, okay, there's a legal research need, so we're going to use one of these AI platforms as the basis, but then we're going to customize it so that a lawyer has an interface to do their research with. And it's going to, specifically hold all of the case law and the statutes and the things that are out there in a particular jurisdiction. And so we're using paid services for what we're using AI in our law firm. And again, I think the other important part of that is when you're paying for a service and it is uh, a company that has a good reputation, and they're telling you that the data that you're feeding in there is not being used to train the AI on. So this data is staying within the product that you're using. I think that's all important so that you're not putting out client information and stuff to the entire world. That's why we choose to carefully vet the products that we're using. And honestly, when you pay for stuff, I mean, it's usually better. So now again, on ChatGPT, just for my own personal use, I pay the $20 a month service, which is an enhanced version, very cheap. Um, and it does give you more options than just the free version, but the free version's out there and plenty of people use the free version of ChatGPT. But anyway, so some pretty wild stuff happening. So specifically in our law firm, what are we doing? How are we using AI and automation um, to make our operation more efficient um, and I guess less error free, less dependent on human input to some extent? Well, I mean, it's on all aspects of our law firm. I mean, from the very beginning, when we have people calling in that are hurt, they're going to talk to a real person. We have a real or several real people that potential clients are going to talk to, and they're going to talk to a lawyer as well. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. But what's cool is like right now, we record the calls that come in. And as soon as that call is ended, a transcript and an AI summary is produced and emailed to our people. And what that allows us to do is to make sure that we got the information taken down accurately. And then when we enter this person, say they become our client, we enter them into our system, we have a really good detailed summary of exactly what's going on with their case. And again, that's instantaneous. It also helps that our people who are on these initial calls aren't sitting there just worrying about taking notes, and they can actually talk to the people and listen to their concerns and get the information that's needed. And it just makes for a much more efficient way of handling that part of it. And then, in that same realm, when we're doing follow-ups, whatever it is, with people that are in need and maybe seeking our services, again, automation comes in, because depending on what type of case it is, those types of things, we can have some things going out automatically to provide information and resources to people. And it just really enhances the experience someone's going to have with our law firm. And so that's on the very front side of contact with our law firm. And then as you delve into the client experience, when person is our client, and we're trying to keep up with what their treatment status is and where they've been seen, their medical records, medical bills, lost wages, again, potential other data sources, police report, if there's an incident report, whatever that looks like. All of that stuff can be fed into one of our AI products, and it can analyze details. It can, I mean, they're getting to where they can help us predict outcomes on these cases. And there's even products out there to try to help assess potential compensation for clients. Now, again, we're still pretty far away in that respect. It still takes basically me as a lawyer and me as a trial lawyer knowing the value of these claims and all that kind of stuff. But there are some prediction abilities there to help based on the data that's out there from jury verdicts, settlements, things like that. So, really cool stuff. Again, using AI for legal research, reviewing large volumes of documents. I mean, we have clients that, have thousands of medical records. And, whether we're going to try to go through those and do a summary, which can take hours. We can now utilize an AI program, and it can take an hour instead of hours. And it's more reliable, and it can provide a nice, clear, concise breakdown. Say, for example, you have a client with multiple different injuries and maybe medical conditions that aren't related to what's going on in the case that we represent them. And it can break that out, and it can show all the different areas of medical problems, what the treatment was, what the complaints were, the timeline of when these things came about. If there's pre-existing problems, can show that. So it's pretty amazing the picture that we can get of a client's situation in a short amount of time and with really high accuracy. And that helps us because, again, you got to remember this. I always say this. I mean, these insurance companies, they have vast amounts of resources available to them, and they use them. And again, they're going to be ramping up AI in their operations. And so if you're not able to compete with that, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a big problem if you're a personal injury lawyer and you're representing people. I mean, you got to be there on the same plane level, or you're not going to be doing a good service for your clients. And so it's really important that lawyers are thinking about AI and automation in their operations. And the other thing that is really pretty cool, the ability to automate things that we're doing all the time in our law firm. For example, if we sign up a client that's been in a car accident, one of the very first things we do is send a letter of representation to an insurance company. All right. And so, you know, before automation, we have to get the information. We have to get the insurance information, the claim number, whatever the insured's name is, all that kind of stuff. And not only are we entering that into our system, but then somebody's having to take that information, put it onto a letter of representation. And this is something that is happening all the time. Well, the ability to only have to enter the information one time into our system, and then that information populates into a letter of representation. I mean, you're cutting even a few minutes down and making sure you're getting in touch with that insurance company as quickly as possible, because we want insurance companies to know that we're in the mix as quickly as possible so they don't try to take advantage of our clients. That they're usually, when a lawyer's involved, they're going to assign it to a different insurance adjuster, a higher level insurance adjuster. And there's already, I guess, a factor of taking the claim more seriously when a lawyer's involved. And so the quicker that we can get that and make that happen, the better. And again, there's multiple steps like this throughout the process of us representing someone that we're working on automating, making it more efficient, making it quicker, because also this helps us move our clients' claims along quicker. So the quicker that we can move through the process, the potentially the quicker that we can get a resolution for our client. And the three um, guiding principles that I have for our law firm are quality number one, speed number two, conclusion number three. And by that I mean everything we do, we want it to be quality. That's how we get happy, satisfied clients. That's why we have good, solid reviews. That's why we have people that are recommending us to their friends and their family. But the second one is speed. And by that, I mean, we don't want to sit here sitting on somebody's claim when they're done treating and it's time to try and negotiate with the insurance company, because that's a failure. And, I've talked about this before, that so many just general practice law firms, or potentially, some of these large advertising law firms, they sit on people's cases and they don't get them moved. And, they don't have the processes in place to ensure that they know what's going on with their clients and that they're keeping up with them, and then they're moving their case to the next stage. And that's so important, and we have that. We utilize those kinds of processes in our operation. And again, we're working this year to automate within those various processes to even make it more efficient, quicker, and move cases along for our people. Because I can tell you, the one thing that will definitely make clients mad is if a lawyer is just sitting on a case and nothing is happening and there's no reason for nothing to be happening. There should be movement. And again, you got to get it to the insurance company. You got to get everything over there, and you got to figure out if this is going to settle out of court or not. And then the next step, right, is if it's not going to settle out of court, you got to be ready to move forward. And again, we're implementing things to speed up that process, to move through the litigation process as efficiently as possible. Now, unfortunately, we run up against court timelines when we file a lawsuit, which we do not have control over. But again, as this stuff comes into much broader use, court systems will start using AI and automation as well. And so again, efficiency across the board is the goal, and it's on the horizon for sure. So, you know, we've already had instances in our law firm where um, AI tools have identified maybe like some hidden patterns in accident data that lead to higher settlement, right? Or if you're getting, for example, maybe there's an intersection collision, and maybe we're learning that this intersection is dangerous. There's been a lot of accidents there. And so we request data from the state as to the history of accidents at that particular location. And then we get that information from the state, we feed that information into an AI product that identifies patterns, similar types of accidents happening as happened to our client. And now we're able to use that information to potentially bring a claim against, the state for not having acted to rectify the problem with the intersection. So this isn't just a one-time event, right? There's been multiple similar types of accidents. And again, if you get a stack of documents from the state, you got a person that's going to go through there and try to figure out similarities and things, or you can feed that in, and within a very short amount of time, you can have a nice analysis of every type of accident that's happened, how many times this particular type of accident has happened, things like that. So really cool ways to use AI when trying to figure out, is there more to a case than just what we're seeing on the front side. Again, another example is, when we're running medical records through an AI process, there can be a situation where we didn't realize that our client maybe had some significant pre-existing issues before the accident. And, something like that, if it's the same types of complaints that they're having after an accident, I mean, that affects the value of the claim. And that's something we all need to know. I mean, not only we as lawyers, but our clients need to know, this is the situation. And again, the ability for AI to identify things like that is huge, and identify it in a short amount of time. Because again, before this, I mean, again, we might be looking at thousands of pages of medical records on a client. And, the ability for it to process that in a relatively short amount of time, give a nice summary, a nice overview, red flags, whatever that looks like, that's huge. That's huge. That helps us serve our clients better, quality. So, as we move forward here into the future and using AI, of course, there's ethical considerations. And again, I've already addressed, for us at our law firm, we are making sure that we vet the products that we're using. And, one of the key things, right, is we want to know, does this product use the data we're putting in there to train on? Because if it does, that's a potential problem, because then it's sending that data out into the world, and that's potentially sensitive information. We can't have that. So we always make sure that we look at those terms of service and know what we're signing up for, and making sure that this data is staying within the realm of this product. And so that's a really big concern. But again, I have a feeling as we move forward, there will obviously be um, guidelines, rules put out by various bar associations, how to handle AI when it comes to representation of clients, things like that. Right now, again, we are on the front side of this, and there's not a lot of guidance. So lawyers have to use their own guiding principles, the ethics that we live and work by, when choosing what to use and how to use it in our law firms. And that's a really important part. But again, here's the other key factor is AI should always just be a supplement to, and not a replacement for, humans. So, there's a pretty infamous case that came out of New York, and I want to say it may have been within the last year and a half, where a lawyer, he simply went to one of these like Chat GPT. He fed in a motion that he was facing, that he needed to do a response on, I believe is what it is. It was some kind of pleading that he needed to do in court. And he basically said, do me a pleading. And ChatGPT, or whatever artificial intelligence platform he was in, it did a pleading for him. The problem was the cases it cited didn't even exist. They weren't real. And lo and behold, the judge was analyzing this, started looking at it, and when he recognized that this was all made up stuff, well, let's just say it didn't end well for that lawyer. So again, trust but verify. That's the motto around here. And so if we're using, like I said, we do have an AI legal research platform. Every service that we've used, it now has an AI component. So, this isn't like we're just sort of picking and choosing to do this. It's like anything that we're using is now offering an AI component. So everybody's seeing this together. But when we get a result, then we go use our old school methods of research, make sure these cases are real, they're still valid, all those kinds of things. And that's really important. And the same thing goes with, if we're seeing red flags in medical records, things like that, again, through an AI summary, well, we need to go look at the records, and we need to make sure that the records, that's what it really says. Because again, we don't want to rely on something that is in error that could potentially affect the value of a case. So, but again, it's a great way to at least bring it to our attention, and then we can delve in deeper. And we've saved a lot of time of just having to go through thousands of records to get to that point in the first place. But yes, human judgment, empathy, and ethical reasoning are all critical in our personal injury law world. And, again, this stuff will get even better. Um, and I don't know a timeline for when the human element will be even less so. Again, it's a scary thought, right? This is such a mind blowing world right now. Because on this one hand, the things it can do are just again, it just kind of blows my mind. But on the other hand, you know, we have to keep a skeptical eye on what's being produced and making sure that it's accurate. And so, again, somewhere down the road, it's going to get even more fine tuned. And I don't know what that looks like. Nobody knows to what extent humans won't be needed. But I do believe that lawyers are going to always be needed because at the end of the day, we have the training, we have the human empathy, we have the human judgment, and we have the ability to reason with everything that we know is going on to guide our clients. And, I mean, just like the idea of having robots in our house, I don't know, man, it's pretty freaky for me to think about that. Um, and so I don't know if at some point people will be comfortable having an AI lawyer. I just don't see it. But again, I don't know that answer, but I think we're quite a ways from that point. And so right now, people need lawyers. And again, lawyers that have AI assistance is awesome. Help level the playing field against these large corporations that we're in the fight against for our clients. But in any event, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to me. I'm excited overall. Again, we don't know where it's going to go, but it's only going to help us better serve our clients. That's my belief. And I hope you kind of enjoyed this overview of how we're using AI and what I'm seeing about that. And until next time, stay safe and stay well.